There is no deeper connection than the one maintained with our soulmate, which seems to go far beyond words and all distance, causing the involved parties to ultimately connect and understand each other on a level that simply couldn't be achieved with anyone else. That's why for many years, many teachers have sought to explain a bit about what lies between these two souls, which were initially one sight, and have separated, so that each one can come to this plane embodying a different individual. And that's what soulmates are, according to the knowledge spread by the author and researcher Dolores Cannon, who has set out to examine a bit more in depth the topic of souls and their deep and intangible connections, among which she witnessed this phenomenon that mediates between these two parts of the same soul. Everything that can occur between two souls deciding to connect appears in greater proportion and intensity between these two souls called soulmates, which is logical to think considering the profound way in which they energetically connect. Just as the energies of two souls can align, the energetic exchange that takes place between soulmates seems to go beyond established logical limits, as many aspects of their journey depend on this very exchange. In this sense, we must understand that the energy flowing between these souls will not only be a fundamental point in the way one pulls the other until they finally meet, but also use this energetic flow as a means of communication. Without the need for physical interaction, they are already sending messages of love, compassion, and necessary guidance for the long-awaited encounter and reunification. Some have even claimed that, without having met their soulmate, they already enjoyed a deep exchange of emotions, thoughts, and perceptible sensations from the depths of their being, tangible on the earthly plane. This connection has been categorized as telepathic, and undoubtedly it is one of the most interesting and astonishing aspects when discussing this topic. It speaks to how between these two individuals, such personal and intrinsic aspects of being are shared, that it seems to have the ability to go beyond one body and enter the other. However, it is not really a journey between one physical incarnation and another. It is simply an unparalleled spiritual and energetic connection that cannot be surpassed in intensity by any other. Some of the points described by Dolores Cannon as shared manifestations in the midst of this telepathic bond include the perception of feelings, thoughts, and ideas seemingly originating from the other person's mind, the occurrence of shared synchronicities between both souls, and the exact way in which one seems to mirror the other in terms of opinions and perspectives. Simple things like starting a sentence that is completed by the other person reveal how it seems that each of these individuals can access the innermost part of the other, reaching levels so profound that only the person themselves can visit. This raises many questions about the extent of aspects that can be covered by this telepathic connection with the other person. In addition to being unaffected by the passage of time, it also appears to go beyond the limits of the personal and individual. Thus, Dolores Cannon and many other authors took on the task of classifying all the forms of telepathy that can arise between these soulmates, not excluding any other forms that may be discovered in the future through further research. Our world is so vast that what we truly know is very little compared to what we are ignorant of. Yet as followers of the research of this eminent woman, we dare to explore those forms of telepathy between soulmates, remembering, of course, that in many instances this non-verbal communication can benefit from periods of separation between these souls. Contrary to what one might think, when these souls meet and must be distant from each other for periods, an intensification of everything mentioned seems to occur. Distance serves as a potent catalyst for telepathic connection between soulmates. Something that will be explained amid the points I will detail for you. So get ready to marvel at this pure and strong connection that transcends beyond time, space, words, and distance. Number 1. Telepathic connection in initial instances. Firstly, we must discuss how these souls seem to have an immediate recognition of each other's presence. Even when these individuals have not crossed paths on this earthly plane before, they energetically appear to detect each other, It's as if it were an elaborate spiritual system to know who they are facing, making an immediate recognition and manifesting their bond in many aspects that go beyond the conscious part of the human being. It seems that even before the physical encounter, these souls are already communicating and preparing for their meeting. Yet, this aspect takes on that special form again that both souls have shared since the moment of their creation. In this sense, everything about them seems to synchronize to show as an exact reflection of the other and what the other has experienced. Even when separated, this pair of souls has been able to walk carrying parallel realities in which they develop the same traumas, wounds, and face the same challenges as their counterpart. Remember that, according to what Dolores Cannon has exposed, these souls have a long history of shared lives, during which they have continued to travel together, acquiring experiences and memories stored in each of them at a level beyond consciousness. From here, we observe the way these souls are linked in a manner unaffected by the passage of years and their various physical incarnations, having the ability, at the moment of their reunion in each incarnation, to return to that point where they had left off, aligning aspects of themselves such as their heartbeats, ideas, and emotions. For some, this idea is challenging to grasp, as they cannot conceive that our being has been travelling for so long on this earth, and even less that, during all that time, another soul has accompanied us through an energetic connection. However, this is indeed what happens with these soulmates, who do not abandon the other in any of their lives and seek, through their journey, to reunify, returning to being as they were originally created, one soul instead of two halves. This form of telepathic connection between two souls helps them continue to serve as an enhancer for the other's internal process, significantly contributing to the refinement of their being. This not only benefits the individual journey each one undertakes, but also the shared journey towards their unification. One of the main functions that our soulmate fulfills in our life is to take us on a journey of self-discovery, where we touch the deepest aspects of our being, confronting all unresolved issues that we have let accumulate. It also confronts us with those unhealed wounds and everything that prevents us from progressing in our internal work, which is crucial in achieving the shared goal of unifying these two souls. In the midst of this, the telepathic connection emerges as the backbone of this bond and the processes that it generates. In other words, this form of non-verbal communication represents the staff upon which they lean, the most effective way to recognize each other. Even the physical realm succumbs to this connection, as we mentioned earlier. It is normal for the two bodies that house these soulmates to synchronize in terms of sensations, emotions, heartbeats, and other aspects that can leave observers in awe of these types of bonds. This kind of connection proves challenging for many in various aspects, but presents itself as a wonderful opportunity to expand our understanding beyond the logical and lead us to evaluate the true dimension of the spiritual and energetic. Number 2. Instant telepathy that occurs between soulmates. At this point, we need to discuss how, beyond recognition, these souls seem to click in an instant, not only identifying each other, but also re-establishing that telepathic connection they had left at some point in their past lives. Upon a physical encounter, these souls don't waste time. Instead of merely recognizing each other's energy, they instantly reopen that channel to telepathic communication. This helps us understand the depth of what binds soulmates, as they don't require more permission or shared experiences in their current incarnation to resume that form of energetic communication that emanates from the depths of each one. Each soul that has developed an identity and a life in this time seems to be aware within itself that what precedes them is much greater. They understand that their history is far longer than what they consciously acknowledge. This aligns with the notions presented by Dolores Cannon, who, through her therapies, established how the soul accumulates a vast array of experience files from past lives. In this specific case, it appears that the soul is aware of these files on a subconscious level, but does not bring them into the conscious realm. But even though we may not be aware of it in this state of consciousness, soulmates seem to be very clear about it and immediately open up to this form of communication to continue the work and the shared journey they had to leave behind at some point. However, the way this happens is not as simple as connecting and moving forward. In those initial moments of the encounter, each of the beings involved may experience a sensation of being right in front of a great flow of information about the other person's current life, as if the entire history of that person were completely transferred to our conscious side. This is how the telepathic connection is experienced, generated instantly from the moment of the encounter in the present life. This significant informational load may even include very detailed aspects of their traumas, experiences, and their views on various subjects. Whether we like it or not, it will lead to an immediate change in the way many aspects of life and the current reality are perceived. This is why many people can feel overwhelmed during that first physical encounter with their soulmate. In addition to all this, the telepathic connection also involves a flow of emotions from the other person that can sometimes be quite challenging to assimilate. Just imagine for a moment having to navigate through your own emotions while simultaneously being exposed to those of your soulmate. It's a change in the emotional load that, although bearable thanks to their bond, can initially cause a significant shock. Moreover, this way of sharing information seems so detailed that even without conversations between these two individuals, both may know about the other's past experiences, emotional states, and what they are currently striving for. In other words, the intense way these two souls connect makes it possible for them to know each other's greatest aspirations and deepest desires hidden within, even those they keep secret and don't dare to share with anyone else. All of this, as if by an act of magic, will be revealed to the other party, not through some kind of trick, but through those spiritual and energetic threads that accompany the unique bond of soulmates, from which there are no secrets for their counterparts. This makes these souls each other's great catalyst for overcoming internal processes and achieving expansion and the improvement of the other. Number 3. Telepathy between bodies. Beyond seeing this as merely a mental matter, the telepathy that these soulmates share is so profound that it is also reflected in their bodies. In other words, the physical form of each one will ultimately reflect the states and emotions of the other. Again, this represents a challenge for each of the involved souls, who now also manage to feel the other from within themselves, as if their body were a perfectly aligned monitor with the states of the other, showing us how they feel and experience every moment far from us. We must take a moment to understand how this happens, and in periods of separation, it seems to be enhanced. The synchronization of these two souls, translated into their physical bodies, can go so far that, even in different spaces, one can be present and aware of what affects the other. This can be challenging and go against the limits of the physical, but indeed, these soulmates develop the ability to monitor the states of the other, as if this ability represented an assurance that your twin will come to you if needed. As impressive as it may seem, soulmates are capable of perceiving pains, symptoms, and sensations experienced by the other from a distance, as if we were talking about remote communication. This concept, rather than referring to technology, makes us turn to spiritual and energetic aspects to find an explanation. Some have testified to suddenly feeling deep joy, sadness, or even a comforting sensation in their bodies that doesn't align with their current state and what they are currently experiencing. These individuals can immediately detect that what they are experiencing does not originate from within them. Upon investigation, they realize that what they are experiencing is actually generated by their soulmate. This reveals the complex way in which two beings can be connected to each other, manifesting in their reality everything that energetically binds them, because that energy transcends the physical, even distance and time. Even with many kilometers separating them, the way one perceives the emotions and physical state of the other is intense and impressive. However, this only occurs after the first physical encounter between both souls. Unlike other forms of communication that exist between these soulmates, which can be perceived as a presence in dreams, whispers from the depths of their being, and even small messages disguised as intuition, this form of telepathy that extends to the physical body requires at least an initial closeness. But after that takes place, extensive sharing in time will not be needed, nor any desire to establish that form of communication. It will happen spontaneously and naturally, not forced on either part, and will surprise the other with its appearance. From there, many are able to identify that this other person is indeed their soulmate. It's not that there aren't other signs, but for the less perceptive, this is an undeniable indication of the strength that binds them to the other. This telepathic connection will not diminish over time. On the contrary, it will intensify and become more evident and profound. This opens the door for us to consciously perceive the other and express our genuine concern and love. This is a demonstration of the pure and precious interaction that these two souls share, something impossible to replicate in other connections. It determines the uniqueness of this connection and its implications at a personal and spiritual level. This bodily telepathy undoubtedly challenges any conventional paradigm that speaks of emotional and spiritual bonds, opening the door to appreciate experiences and aspects more oriented towards the holistic. Number 4. Childlike telepathic connection. At this point, let's explore how soulmates, even long before becoming aware of the existence of this phenomenon, can feel that telepathic connection from the early stages of their lives. It manifests in very subtle events that are inexplicable from another point of view. Remember that soulmates are not forged in adulthood. This is a bond with which we are born, and it has been within us for much longer than our current life. Speaking of soulmates, inevitably takes us back to those moments of our creation when we were created as complete beings and later divided to inhabit two different physical bodies in the earthly realm. From that precise moment, this marvelous journey began in which each part seeks the other, attempting to complete its perfection, to reunite as one, just as it was initially. However, this doesn't mean we are incomplete or unable to live without the other. Such beliefs are false and need to be dispelled. Even when separated into two parts, each part forms a complete, capable, and entirely independent being. What truly happens with these soulmates is that they feel the bond that unites them from the beginning. They sense how each one is unconsciously seeking the other, while deeply knowing that part of their mission is to find the other and reunite. While these souls are experiencing parallel realities, unaware of their impending reunion or when it will happen, the force within them is pulling strongly toward the other person. It calls out and invites them to continue the joint work they must accomplish. Each of these souls has its purpose, and the mission of each aligns perfectly with the other, or even becomes complementary because their lives point in the same direction and their efforts seem perfectly coordinated. In a way that often goes unnoticed by many, the thread that ties these individuals together is present in each one from their arrival in this physical plane, providing very subtle signs from the first steps of their journey. Although it may seem incredible, these parts can experience from an early age how tiny ideas, sensations, and emotions arrive at their bodies that they do not perceive as their own. It's as if these aspects do not align with their inner selves, but rather with the inner self of another person. Cases have been known where young individuals even experience ailments that are unusual for them and coincide with a very subtle form of telepathy. This form does not fall under the classification of bodily telepathy but remains inexplicable from other perspectives. This is something that doesn't stop happening. It's not something they seek because, at such an early age, most do not have a consciousness of the universe developed enough to understand this phenomenon from its true essence. The capabilities that these soulmates have to manifest their bond go far beyond conventional beliefs and extend into the unimaginable. something that has not been possible to project onto such young individuals. This involves a particular aspect where one of these souls is a precise reflection of the other and projects onto their own person what the other experiences. In other words, they manifest in their physical body and inner self what afflicts the other. Some young individuals have felt invaded by strong moments of sadness, anxiety, and decline, which, on a medical level, do not have an exact explanation. Over time, these experiences have been associated with the energetic and spiritual connection that one of them shares. These emotional changes are not attributable to emotional disorders of the individual, and sometimes become a source of concern for the parents of these children, and even for the children themselves. Number 5. Intuitive telepathic connection. This is another fascinating aspect of the deep and energetic communication that one of these souls has with its twin flame, in which those subtle whispers we recognize as intuition end up forming a channel of communication that goes beyond the physical bodies of these counterparts. It is thus that we see that in the deepest recesses of our being, we hear whispers, guidance, and messages of love and understanding that we associate with our intuition and that actually come from this connection. This so-called intuition is often associated with our higher self communicating with us, but it turns out to go much beyond that. In the layers deepest within ourselves, we find a channel connected to the universe and the energy within it, serving as a conduit through which messages are sent with our other half. This is an impressive aspect of ourselves, as it seems that the deepest part of us has a function as a receiver of messages from the universe and the energy we are connected to. In this case, it is marked by the existence of that other part of us embodying another physical form. Far beyond distances, beyond the limitations imposed by the body and conventional communication, we find this exchange of messages and support from one part to the other. As if it were a perpetual helpline to which we can turn, these interactions feel like gentle whispers deep within us, emphasizing the importance of delving into ourselves to find the knowledge and guidance that lead us to align with our perfect spiritual path. This is also a way in which the souls, outside the consciousness of these two individuals, speak to each other and seek to guide these physical bodies towards each other, so that this connection and bond become conscious and evident for each of the parties. Additionally, it is the way in which each of these souls demonstrates love, compassion, and unconditional support for the other, indicating the manner in which they cannot separate or stop feeling concern for one another, with their imminent destiny being to meet and continue their journey together. This inner voice within us resonates with a harmonious tone that brings messages to our being, messages that, in most cases, we seek but align with our process and experiences. It's as if someone, even in their absence, perfectly understands our joys and our deepest sorrows. This unconscious union presents itself as something innate, often not fully understood until the moment these two souls meet, and their strength shows them that what binds them goes far beyond this earthly world. The aspects that end up governing this form of connection include an intuitive understanding of what ails the other being, and the way it seems one could perceive how that other twin feels in their physical and emotional form, as if it were a real-time monitor. It also seems to function as a channel where the emotional and physical needs of the other can be predicted, even from miles away, detecting when they are going through a complex moment that calls for assistance. Number 6. Synchronous telepathy. Here we have to talk about the way in which one of the souls seems to be a synchronized reflection of the other, showing a series of coincidences and common events that lead us to realize the relationship between these two beings. Dolores Cannon explored the concept of synchronicities in the midst of her multiple studies, presenting them as events that may seem isolated but hold a relationship and a message for the individual. Similarly, soulmates can experience these events in a form and timing parallel to each other, as if it were a perfectly practiced and executed dance between two dancers. These dancers represent the soulmates, and the way in which coincidences that appear as events, synchronicities, or isolated situations end up manifesting in the lives of each of these parties, but in a way that seems synchronized in time. Although for the reality of each one, these events may appear in a particular way, with aspects that are intrinsic to the life of each of these souls, they seem to maintain the same essence and the same message for both. In addition to sharing the same traumas, themes, and challenges, these soulmates seem to be able to share the same perspective and the same lines of thought from a distance. This is why, when this form of telepathy appears, we see how they can be simultaneously facing the same decision-making processes. Even more incredible than this is that each of these individuals always ends up aligning their decisions and their way of proceeding with what the other would do, experiencing the magical phenomenon of being a reflection of the other's reality. Throughout time, when delving into the topic of soulmates, notable similarities have been observed in the realities and internal and external aspects of both individuals. All aspects of their lives are shown to be a clear reflection of the other. We are not only talking about their minds, which seem to point in the same direction regarding visions, goals, objectives, and life conceptions, but it also extends to their feelings, their forms of intuition, and the guidance that comes from the depths of their being. And ultimately, in the most impressive instances, the aspects of reality for each, immersed in their experiences, determinations, and journey in the physical plane, represent something with a very small probability statistically. Yet, it marks a very important point when talking about soulmates. To make this panorama even more impressive, even those events that appear as fortuitous in the other's life turn out to be a reflection of what the other soul is living, especially in terms of turning points where life and the course of the person seem to mark a before and after. These souls can even coincide in their journey on this plane and find themselves in similar situations, a testament to their energetic connection and how their lives and individual journeys run parallel to each other. The meeting of these twins is meant for them to continue their individual journeys in parallel until, at a certain point, they unite to continue as one soul, as it was in the beginning and as it is destined to be again. Number 7. Telepathy manifested in dreams. This is an extremely interesting point and marks for us the last telepathic aspect that these soulmates share. It speaks to how, in the realm of dreams, these souls seem to be present for each other, often even before crossing paths in the physical plane. Much has been said about dreams and how they represent a realm where our souls go to rest the physical body, while they continue to jump from one place to another, acquiring knowledge and nourishing themselves with the wisdom that the universe and higher realms can offer each one. But it's not just that. It can also represent a channel and a space in which these soulmates gather and exchange messages and energy even before they have crossed paths in their reality. At times, this manifests as the presence appearing in one's dreams. However, this presence doesn't require a visualization of a physical form. Just being there conveys an energy and sensation that immediately makes them recognize who it is. Some describe this presence as a feeling of security, like a welcoming and supportive atmosphere, where they sense that the other being genuinely cares about them and what is happening in their lives. Sometimes, this presence is seen as a glimmer or a blurry form that accompanies and makes the dreamer feel secure, as if it were a familiar environment or a space where they can be truly themselves. There are also documented cases where people claim to have seen a defined physical form of that soulmate even before their physical encounter, as if the interaction between these two souls couldn't wait for them to meet on this plane and resorted to more spiritual forms. Likewise, we see how the need for reunion of soulmates goes far beyond a specific moment or an exact point in their lives. They seek closeness from the very moment they arrive here, express it, seek it, and their energies pull towards each other. This is so impressive that sometimes it has been discussed how these souls, even before physically crossing paths, have found relief or solace in that presence they feel in their dreams. In challenging moments of life, The messages of love and understanding these souls receive are not only marked by internal voices. It's not just whispers, nor optimistic thoughts and messages that reach the depths of their being. It's also a sense of encouragement that reaches their being and can even be felt in dreams, like a warm embrace and a gentle caress that seems to have been present even upon waking. The way this knowledge is presented raises the question of whether there are even more forms of telepathy shared between these two souls, who never cease to amaze with the ways they seek and support each other on all levels and in all forms. Many would like to experience this profound moment of union with another being, something that can only be achieved through inner work and the development of internal dialogue, from which the guidance and knowledge acquired will be impressive and perfect to lead you where you truly need to go. If you feel that you have experienced this connection, I invite you to share your experience in the comments section. And if you feel that this sharing among us has been beneficial, show it with a like. Don't forget that by subscribing to this channel, you can access exclusive content through which I will support your spiritual growth. And together, we will continue that magnificent and impressive journey of our souls towards perfection. I send you much light and blessings, and we will see each other very soon in a new edition.